Hello all, welcome to the Consistently OK podcast, a podcast where we dive into all things pop culture related from comics to films and everything in between. My name's Luke.
I'm Nick.
Join us every week for a podcast that doesn't set its bar too high or too low, but rather keeps it at a consistently OK level for your enjoyment. Do what I want. Okay. Hi everyone, welcome back to the Consistently OK podcast. We're back. It's a new year. It is the year 2021, and we've had a bit of a delay over Christmas. We're recording. We've just drank and eaten what we can, and not seen any of our families because of the current COVID situation. But we're well. You well, Nick?
All good here, mate. Just, staying home, being safe, soaking in TV shows and movies and video games and just...
But that works out well for the podcast. So that is good.
It's all research.
All research, yeah. So we've got several podcasts lined up for the next few weeks. The first one we're going to do, although it's been out for maybe a month or so now, is Spider-Man Miles Morales. We both have played this game and finished this game. We both played the PlayStation 4 versions because we do not have PlayStation 5 yet, do we, Nick?
No, sadly not. Not yet.
But if anybody wants to buy us PlayStation 5s that listens back to these in a few months' time, or now, please get us one.
Yeah, get in touch. We'll
get in touch. Yeah. So Spider-Man Miles Morales, Nick. I'll dive in first.
Do it.
Also, I hope everyone that's listening had a good Christmas and a good New Year as well.
Yeah.
Let's hope 2022 starts with no COVID in the world. So, on that happy note, Spider-Man Miles Morales. First Spider-Man game came out 2 years ago. Just not doing my homework again. About that time.
I think, 2018.
Such a good game. So good.
Yes.
Loved it so much.
Yes.
And then they announced a couple of years later they were working on something, or soon after they were working on something else for the PlayStation 5. And then the PlayStation 5 got announced, had a big trailer, and there was a Miles Morales trailer. And no one quite knew if it was just a very small game or a fully fledged game or whatever it was. But it turns out it was a little bit of both. It wasn't as long as Spider-Man, but it wasn't short enough to just be something like a DLC, because it's about 8 hours long, I guess the story is.
Yeah. I think
something like that.
It probably took me a little bit longer, but I did like everything alongside it, and I definitely took my time as well, just because again just enjoy swinging around New York.
It's such a beautiful game as well. There's nothing. I remember when I turned it on, I thought, I wonder if I remember the controls, because in between this, I finished God of War and I've played Last of Us 2 and a couple of other games. So I thought, I wonder if it's just gone out of my brain. But no, just straight into swinging and kicking ass.
Yeah.
I think it took me, when I played Spider-Man, I did exactly what you said. I did things side by side. So if there was a crime going on, I went and did the crime. Or if there was a side mission, I would do a couple of side missions. But this one, because my wife and my kids were away for Christmas and I was going to go and join them. So I had 2 nights where I could just play Spider-Man. And I was like, if I don't finish this story now, then who knows when I'll finish it. So I went for it.
2 nights with Miles.
2 nights with Miles. And it was awesome. I did some side missions on the way because I wanted to do the cat one because I heard good things about the cat one. I thought it was fantastic. A really good game, isn't it? There's no... it didn't dip from Spider-Man. I imagine Spider-Man 2, whenever they do that, is going to be obviously better, but it didn't feel like it was like a crappy version of Spider-Man, basically.
Yep. Yeah,
so.
I 100% agree. The thing that I was concerned about with it going in is whether it would feel like Spider-Man 1.5, whether it would feel like here's a similar Peter Parker story, but in a different suit. That's what I'm kind of worried about, is that it was like it would feel just a little hollow, but the game really doesn't. Like it crafts Miles' story in such a emotional and beautiful way that I think it stands on its own legs. And what I hope with like the future of it, without getting too far ahead of ourselves, is that if you have a second one, is that it manages to balance the two of them and still give enough of them room to be their own character.
Yeah, definitely.
Because I think that they've established 2 characters now who are really strong and they've got their own kind of personality and their own traits and things that you love as the player, that you kind of like that makes them them. But it's a really nice contrast to Peter as well in terms of just the environment of Miles. Like I wasn't sure how that was going to work, and yeah, it worked so well, so well.
They used the right amount of Peter Parker, didn't they? Like it wasn't overkill. There was quite a bit of him at the beginning, obviously.
Yep.
And then he's just in a few phone calls. Then he's at the end. I thought that was perfect because it was a Miles story. It wasn't a Peter and Miles story, which I think I knew before going in. It was not going to be so much both of them. But again, the future wise, if they did a Spider-Man 2 and it focused on obviously Peter Parker and the Norman Osborn stuff, but then the game after that, easily they could set up a Spider-Verse film or a Spider-Man film with both Miles and Peter as playable throughout the whole game. I mean, they've just opened so many doors now. It was fantastic. I really enjoyed. I think I enjoyed everything about it. And when I played through it, I was a bit disappointed that there weren't more villains.
Okay.
Well-known villains, because obviously there's the Tinkerer, which they have a different twist on it compared to the comics, and it's pretty much everything. It's an old man actually, other than Spider-Man: Homecoming, where it's sort of a young male. They obviously chose a young female, which is a spoiler, but I think everyone knows we talk about spoilers that listens.
Yeah,
so, I mean, it's pretty obvious, isn't it? As soon as she fixes the doorbell, it's like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
And I actually, when that bit happened, when she fixed the doorbell, and I was like, oh, she's the Tinkerer. And with the name being Finn, I kind of put two and two together. But I thought, God, I hope this isn't like a big reveal right at the end of the game, because but it didn't. It was just they tweaked the trailer, didn't they? There's a bit in the trailer where they left out a few things that they put in the game.
Yeah,
like his suits, because in the game, in the trailer, he was in his new suit, his Miles suit.
Yep.
But in the game, he's in the homemade, like the Spider-Man suit that he was given by Peter Parker. Anyway, and obviously there's Rhino, which is a villain they had in the first Spider-Man game with a bit of a different twist. But I think there was only one other main villain, wasn't there? Which is, he's technically not a villain yet, which is another spoiler, which was the Prowler.
Yeah.
Which, again, most people who didn't read the comics would have known from Spider-Verse. If they'd seen Spider-Verse, is his uncle. So it's there wasn't many. I could have done. I think I could have done with one more villain. You know, Hammerhead or someone.
Did you do all the side missions?
I haven't done all of them. No. Are you going to tell me some good news that there's another villain?
Linked.
Just tell me, Nick. Just tell me.
I don't want to spoil it for you.
Just
cool.
Spoil it. Spoil it.
So all the side missions, like, or a predominant amount of them anyway, link together, and you sort of follow a crime syndicate, and then at the end of it, you sort of find out who's been creating this sense of crime, and it's Fisk. So they're sort of showing that from
prison.
Yeah,
from the raft.
Yeah, I was going to say Blackgate. I was like, definitely not. Yeah, yeah, but he's running it, and so it's like there's a bit where Miles is introduced to Fisk, and that's really nice. Again, it's sort of like a little something for the actual Spider-Man 2.
Is Fisk still in the raft, or has he got out by the end?
Yeah, he's in the raft, and he's playing with shit. As usual, he's just sticking
the Kingpin.
Yeah,
the man.
Yeah,
awesome. I actually have a ginormous Kingpin figure behind me. I don't know if you can see it.
Yeah,
this hero. No, he's not a hero, obviously, but he's a hero to me, mainly because of the Daredevil TV show and the Spider-Man animated series.
Yeah, amazing.
That's cool though. It's nice that there's another touch. I mean, I think it did really well with. I mean, we should talk about the story on a whole.
Mm-hmm.
I thought the story was really well written, really well acted as well by the voice actors. The soundtrack was fantastic as well, which really it's so nice to swing to that soundtrack.
Yes.
Really, really nice touch. It's like GTA when you get in the car in GTA and you have the radio. That's what it felt like in a way. And
again, as well, like
I thought it went.
Sorry, you go. Oh.
No, you go, Nick.
Oh, too kind. Sorry to jump in there. I was going to say, like, with the soundtrack, the score. So the opening of the game, obviously, when you first start swinging as Miles and you're going off to catch up with Pete, and they sort of introduce that same score that's in the original with the like trumpets, and it's like big and it's orchestral, but then there's like a little remix behind it.
Yeah,
and it's like, oh, this is Miles' spin. It was nice to kind of like get a feel for that. But then when you finish that opening bit with Rhino and it's like nighttime, and the track, I think it's like, is it Jaden with Kid Cudi kicks in?
Yes, that's it. Yeah,
That's so good, and
so
it's just
good.
it's so Miles, and instantly the game just gives you that. Like the game is like it's completely different to Peter. This is his world. This is Harlem. This is the music. This is everything, and it's just so good.
I make like playlists once a week. I normally listen to a band a week, so I make a playlist, something like Yeah Yeahs or Vampire Weekend or whatever. But this one I made like a gaming playlist, and that's the first track on it. So I drop my kid off at nursery effectively, and then put my headphones on, and bam, the Kid Cudi song came on.
Yeah,
and
swing away.
I generally feel like I can swing away. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm just standing there with my eyes closed for half an hour. But it's very, very enjoyable, the story and everything as well. I think it was just because obviously it's based in Harlem as well. Like that's the sort of corner it is. But obviously you can go through the whole city, like you go up the Avengers Tower and everything like that.
Yeah,
it is Harlem, is it? Did I just make that up?
Yeah, no, it's Harlem.
But it still feels like it's a smaller scale, doesn't it, than Spider-Man?
Yeah, it feels way more like Spidey feels like he's the whole city. He feels like he looks after every inch of it. Miles feels like he's very much the hometown Harlem hero. And I think they do that in such a clever way that it's like he's just so embedded into the neighborhood. Like the character that's deaf, I've forgotten her name.
I can't remember.
She's amazing. Like that's such a cool character. And it's so nice to just have her in that world and for him to interact with somebody that's just pure Harlem. And then you've got all the Feast stuff that he's sort of tied into, where you meet those people that are working in Feast and his relationships with them.
Because it feels more like a community, because that's, I mean, Spider-Man, you said it perfectly, that it's a bigger scale Spider-Man, isn't it? He's looking after the whole city, but just doing into the grocery shop with the cat and everything like that, it feels like he's doing that because that's his grocery shop. Like, that's Miles Morales' corner of the world, and that's where he is going to focus his attention on. It's really well done. I didn't feel, did you feel during the story that it was too short? We said about how long the game is, but I know you said you spread it out as well, but I felt it hit just the right amount of beats because it didn't overstay its welcome at any point, and it didn't drag.
I think it is the right length. I mean, like selfishly, I want more just because I do enjoy being in that world. Like I thought
that was Spider-Man though. I thought that with The Last of Us 2.
Yeah.
As much as I said with The Last, and that's a long game.
Yeah.
With The Last of Us 2, every time I thought, I finished Seattle. That's like, that's the good game. I was like, oh no, wait, that's just day one. But I still wanted more at the end of The Last of Us 2. I could have done more, hence why you play through it again. But I'll play through this again because I want to get the platinum. But.
Yeah, me too. And I think the other thing is like I'd love DLC for it because I feel like there's little bits of that world that I'd like to see a bit more of.
Maybe they could do a DLC with Fisk, couldn't they? Essentially,
yeah, like
Fisk broke out.
Because I love that with the original Spidey that they did the DLC that was like Black Cat heavy because she's one of my favorite characters. I think she's really cool, and the way that they do in the game is awesome. Like I love that in the original game you sort of have that mission where you like go around the town doing all the like cameras things, and then it leads you to a place and you're like, it's Black Cat's hideout. And I was like, oh, that's so cool. That's such a like nice way to do it. And then you introduce her for the full time in the DLC. Again, with Miles, I feel like there's room to do that. Whether or not they will, I don't know, but I feel like that would be really cool to just have like a little bit of something just to kind of go like, now that Miles has been through his big adventure, like his big kind of Harlem saving scope, that he has something else that's small time but still emotional. I think that would be really cool.
I reckon they could fit it in between this and whatever's coming next with essentially what I assume would be called Spider-Man 2, because between this there'll be another Spider-Verse film as well, so they could easily, I mean, they do costumes and stuff all the time as well, don't they? It'd be crazy that they don't shove a DLC down there as well. And also there'll be more and more people buying or hopefully being given PlayStation 5s. So it's another incentive, right? I get this DLC, I'm going to get a PlayStation 5 and this is coming out. So I did read, this is another thing that I've read. I read too much shit on the internet, but they mentioned they were going to do something small for God of War before the next one came out this year. Something just like link between God of War and Ragnarok, but it's hearsay at the moment. So
yeah, interesting,
but
tempting.
Did you like all the characters involved in Miles Morales? Again, it's a little bit different from what we've seen. I think I spoke on the Spider-Verse podcast about the Miles Morales comics with Ned being his best friend and knowing him, but they had a little bit different in this as well. Did you think the supporting cast was good?
Yeah, I thought it was cool. Like, again, I think I said on the Spider-Verse podcast that I've never read Miles, like the Bendis run of Miles anyway. I read a recent run of it. I think I did about 12 issues of the recent one. And so I don't know too much about Miles, so I sort of took it as like the only point of comparison was Into the Spider-Verse. And I thought this did a nice version of creating him a little bit differently. Like this Miles seems a little bit more confident in Into Spider-Verse. You know, that's the story arc that they go for, that it's like at the start he isn't Spider-Man and he has to grow into those shoes, whereas this is more like it's a Spider-Man who's like learning what it means to be Spider-Man and also what it means to look after Harlem as a whole. Like he's figuring out which Spider-Man he is. You know, is he the Spider-Man of New York or is he the Spider-Man of Harlem?
Well, this is a bit different as well because, sorry, I'm interrupting.
No, go for it.
It's different from Spider-Verse and the comics because everyone has like any Spider-Man character. Someone dies, like as a touch upon a Spider-Verse, like Gwen Stacy, it's Peter Parker and everything. But in this is his dad that's dead.
Yeah.
So it's been the uncle before in Spider-Verse and things. So in this, he's got a lot going on, and essentially that makes him feel you'll have to borrow the Miles Morales comic because I think you would really enjoy. I think you'd really resonate with the Miles Morales character.
Yep.
I think there's a lot there that you would love, and it's different from the Spider-Man as well, which obviously I'm a huge fan of. But
yeah,
he feels a lot more grown up. This is the most grown up Miles Morales version I've come across between the comics and the film and everything, because he's lost his dad. He's looking after his mum as well. He doesn't come off like a young teenager that he is in the other versions. You know, he seems, obviously they've cut some time between when he finds out he's got powers in Spider-Man to this, but he seems like a young adult to me more than.
Yeah, there's definitely a sense of that he feels very much like he's sort of on the cusp of almost going to college. Like and this is that thing in a nice kind of parallel. It's that sense of like when you leave high school or sixth form or whatever and you go to university, there's that period of time when you're sort of figuring out like what direction you sort of want to go into. It's like, do you want to continue like how you've been in high school, or do you want to sort of shift and start something different with university? And I think for Miles, this is almost that. It's do I continue on the kind of same route I've been in, or do I look at Harlem as a whole? Do I look at the city? And it's him learning. And I think the game does such a clever job of, by the end of like the story, Miles is kind of almost set in like, this is who I am as Spider-Man. And it's different.
That's great though, isn't it?
Yeah,
that's great. That's the story to make. Because when Spider-Man 2 does come around, then you've established Peter Parker, his story, because he's got over his the Mary Jane stuff and the Doc Ock, who's like his mentor stuff, and then Miles Morales has sort of found out who he's going to be. And then obviously if Spider-Man 2 is, I mean, it could well be the climax of these games with the Green Goblin stuff, hopefully, or potentially it looks like it might be Venom.
Yeah. Right? It looks a bit Venom.
Something's going on there anyway.
Yeah.
Then.
Yeah, I think
those two characters are set, aren't they? They're set. Mary Jane's set. They've laid the table down for the villains. I was thinking when I was playing it, I wish Mysterio was a villain, and then I couldn't remember about Spider-Man. Was he Mysterio in Spider-Man? There was a Halloween party, right, in Spider-Man, and I'm like, was Mysterio there?
Maybe he was.
Or were people just dressed up as him?
Yeah, I can't remember. He's not in the Sinister Six thing, though, is he?
No, he's not in the Sinister Six. But I was like, is he? Is he there? I couldn't because. Yeah. So when I got this Miles Morales game, I got the remastered version with it.
Oh, cool.
So when I get PlayStation 5, I am going to play Spider-Man remastered again. But I was just curious if you remembered if Mysterio, because if you don't remember, then it'll be exciting for me to find out. But does he make an appearance? But so my point being that he's one of my favorite villains. So if he's not, I don't think he is in Spider-Man, but he has to be in Spider-Man 2. Jesus Christ, yes. Craven.
Oh, Craven would be amazing. Don't they hint at Craven? I'm pretty sure.
They do hint at Craven, yeah. There's so many good. It's like Batman and Spider-Man's rogue galleries are the best, aren't they?
Yeah.
There's too much good stuff there.
I assume when you play the remastered version as well, you're going to play it in the Amazing Spider-Man suit.
Oh yeah, of course, yeah. Your favorite Spider-Man film,
Obviously,
definitely.
You got to play through in that. So
I haven't actually put the Spider-Verse suit on the Miles Morales yet.
I did it quite early on, so I played through a lot of the opening in that suit. I did it with a little bit with the like frame rate change as well, because that's optional. You can kind of mix that. So I did a little bit of that, but then I just switched back to normal after a while and just had it in that suit. And then, did you unlock the Black Lives Matter suit?
No, I don't think I did.
So there's like a massive. It's really really cool. It's a really nice kind of statement, and it's very Harlem. It's very New York. It's awesome. When you swing through, there's a massive Black Lives Matter graffiti mural on the side of like an apartment building.
Nice.
And I can't remember if you do a mission there or if you just swing there and view it, but you get a suit which is sort of like stylized after the Black Lives Matter colors.
Amazing.
And I thought that was so cool. That's just such a topical thing that's just really nice. And
I think they seem to be on the ball at Insomniac, don't they?
Yeah.
See, there's a few studios have had a bit of a bad press recently. I can't remember Insomniac being one of them, but yeah, they seem to really care. I think that's the difference between, because I haven't finished Avengers yet. I played probably about halfway yet, but it is. Have you played it, Avengers?
No, and I keep reading things about it where I'm like, I don't know if I'm going
to. It's good. It's good because of the fact you get to play as like Hulk, and Miss Marvel's really cool to play, and Thor, like throwing Thor's hammer, and a game where I've always wanted to just be able to press a button and fly as Iron Man.
Yeah.
There's a lot of goodness there, but it's not. It doesn't feel like it's come off as like a passion project. It's more like, okay, we started this game and we have to finish it, and we're going to go fully into like the multiplayer is going to be the big thing. So the story sort of, although actually the story got well received, and I'm only halfway through it, so I can't judge the whole thing, but it just feels like they just went through the motions. But with Spider-Man and Miles Morales, it feels like they thought, wow, we've got this character.
Yeah.
We've got this whole universe to go into, like this whole Spider-Man gallery, and they've just really nailed it. Like they've just got it spot on.
Yeah.
And that's what I hope with, although I'm a bit skeptical about Gotham Knights, the fact that they're doing a Court of Owls story and they've got Scott Snyder on board makes me feel like that could be very good.
Yeah, I think you're right there that it definitely feels like a passion project. And one of my other worries with it when it was announced was that because it was a launch title, there's sort of a stigma around launch titles sort of being like there just to show what the console can do. Rather than them being like fully fledged games or exciting things. Like the first Uncharted game is good, but it feels like this is what the PS3 can do. This is visually what we can do. This is the kind of thing we can do with the character. Whereas when you get to the second one, that's something that then feels like, oh my god, this is like you've thought about it. Yeah. Miles doesn't feel like that. Miles doesn't feel like a launch game. It just feels like a normal game that does everything right.
I agree.
And there's just so much about it that I just think is really, really impressive. I think his relationship with Finn is explored in a really interesting way. And I love when you get towards the end of it and you break into the it's not an aquarium, is it? Or is it? I'm thinking of The Last of Us for sure.
The NASA
the
Space Center.
Yeah, made me think of The Last of Us a lot this moment. That's probably what I'm getting.
It did.
But there's the bit where when you get in it, it then switches to a flashback of like the two of them walking around trying to find their project.
Yeah, you see Peter and Doc.
Yeah, and it's like in the middle of this big action moment that's kind of building for Miles in terms of like meeting up with Finn. You're exploring their character, like you're exploring both of them in this kind of like moment where they're bonding and together, and then it's like jumping you back into the place, but it's more abandoned. It feels a little bit more hollow, and you've sort of got the dread of like these two people like best friends, and it's gone horribly wrong. And I think that's the kind of storytelling where you kind of go like, this is definitely a passion project that they're like, we want to hit. You know, we've got a shorter game for sure, but we're going to hit the emotional beats that the first game did still.
Yeah, definitely. I was worried at the beginning when it was announced that it was going to be DLC in field, but also it was going to be quite buggy because we knew it was coming out, but it kind of happened relatively quickly from the announcement trailer to this, and I hadn't seen much about it.
Mm-hmm.
But it wasn't, like he said, it was a really good. There was
Yeah.
one bug though. There was one bug that I had, which is I got about an hour into the game, and then I had to stop playing. So I was in the middle of the park, and I stopped playing, went out of the game, came back like a few days later, and I was stuck in a tree. And I could not get out of the tree, Nick. I could jump on the tree, but I couldn't get out, so I had to start the whole thing again. It was only an hour through, so I had to do basically the Rhino stuff again.
Yeah.
Which was also really cool. Like, what a cool straight away
Yeah.
to do something completely different to the first Spider-Man game, which is being on Rhino's back, which I actually was trying to not damage anything in the mall.
Yeah.
And I later found out
trophy.
there's a trophy if you do damage.
Yeah. I was like, what?
It's like the more things you run through, you'll get a trophy. I was like, oh, I was trying to avoid like everything. So I was like, oh, maybe there'll be something. So, but I thought that was a really nice. I mean, they just went through the motions very quickly, but in a nice way. Like, bam, Rhino, bam, Miles Morales he's got electrical powers.
Yeah.
Bam, here's his suit. Like, I think it went very smoothly, and I really enjoyed it. I'm really excited. I've still got to finish the side missions, but I'm really looking forward to doing New Game Plus and eventually playing it the way it's supposed to be played with the new control and
like
the updated graphics and everything.
Yeah, I think that'd be really nice. Like, again, one of the things I loved about it was that I think in the original Spider-Man, there was maybe 1 or 2 instances where you had like a strong weather change. I think there's like one instance where it's like heavy rain, and then there's maybe another instance where it's like light rain, but it's not often. Whereas in this, they've got like a full-on weather cycle, and like the snow aspect of it, I think really changes the world. It just looks
nice, doesn't it?
Yeah, it looks nice, and it feels different. Again, it feels more homely. It feels less like this is the whole city, and it feels like it's just Harlem and it's the community around Miles. I think that's just really, really nice.
When I got towards the end of the game, before that big snowstorm, I was a bit gutted when I went to swing to the NASA, the Space Center. It was like, if you go any further, like, this is the last stage of the game. I was like, oh man, like, although I've been rushing through this game so I can complete it before I go to my wife's mum's for Christmas, I want it to be the last step. So I was like, right, I'll do a few more things and then I'll go in. But actually, it was quite a long chunk of the game still to go. I thought it was going to end in Seattle, like The Last of Us 2. I thought it was going to end in the Space Center, but it kept going.
Yeah.
I kind of wish, again, spoiler, that Finn didn't die at the end.
Yeah, I know what you mean. I think
that fell a bit flat for me because I don't feel like she deserved to die.
Yeah, I was unsure. I mean, there were things that I was like, I got that she was driven, that it was like coming back from what she'd done. It's like the Prowler. Like, the Prowler does things that is really hard to come back from.
Yes.
And so the idea that he ultimately dies is always justification, because it's like coming back from those things is really hard. And there are definitely instances of it in pop culture where it's happened. Like Negan is one of them, in the sense that Negan did some fucked up shit, but the guy is still going, and he's changing around. So I think it's harder to kind of create a villain who does these things that then you rectify them. I think it takes a lot for them to rectify, and it takes time. So I think had they stuck with her, it would have been nice to see that happen. However, I don't know if you would have had the room for that kind of storyline in Spider-Man 2. I feel like you would have had to have another Miles story to do that.
I just thought it would have been nice for her to show, like, because she's done some bad stuff, and she would have had to go to the raft probably, but it would have been nice in Spider-Man 2 if Peter needed something, if Miles had popped up and said, I know who we can go and talk to. And then she just popped up then, just so there was a bit more of a link between Miles and Spider-Man 2. But again, I guess they wanted to round that story off. So, like you said, we're not thinking about that in Spider-Man 2. It's just if Miles is coming, he's coming to help. He's the only help they need. But I just thought it wasn't necessary in the story for her to die. I think it would have been good if she had not.
Yeah.
So,
I think the other thing that I was kind of thinking as well is that I was like, halfway through, I was kind of hoping there wasn't going to be like a love triangle between Miles, the character that's deaf, I've forgotten her name, and Finn. I was kind of like, don't go down that route, because the chemistry between Miles and the character's death. I will stop doing this. I will Google in a minute to find out her name. Those two, there's like a real chemistry between them, and it's a nice chemistry. It feels good. And then with Finn, it's almost like that history that it's like you feel like because there's a history between them, they should be together. And so, like in a way, I was glad that she did die because it leaves room that it's Miles can kind of create this new future, and there's no hang-ups on the past. It's like this is all moving forward, and he's kind of on a new trajectory. But I know what you mean in the sense that I don't think Finn did anything that meant she couldn't come back from it. The death.
No, I don't think so either.
Yeah.
I think that's it. Like she had done probably some bad stuff, but she was only attacking people. She was attacking Roxxon, wasn't she?
Yeah.
So she didn't. Did she hurt anybody else other than the Roxxon people?
There was the bridge, but that wasn't entirely her
Bridge.
fault because that was kind of Miles as well, wasn't it? With his like explosion thing. Haley is her name, by the way.
Haley.
Haley.
I couldn't find it.
Haley is awesome. Yeah, I was such a big fan of that. And again, I thought that was a really big kind of bold choice to include a deaf character, like having somebody sign and having Spider-Man like know a few things here and there. I thought that was really cool, and I don't feel like I'd seen it in a video game before where I'd kind of encountered a character that was deaf and that had to sign.
No, I can't think of anything anyway.
Yeah, I thought that was really cool. But yeah, I thought that was cool. I actually quite like Simon Krieger as a villain. I thought that was quite cool. Like Roxxon was cool.
I keep meaning to Google who was the voice actor because he sounded so familiar. He sounded like
Pretty sure it's Troy Baker.
Is it Troy Baker though?
I'm pretty sure it's Troy.
Google it now, Nick.
I am Googling now, but I'm 89% sure. I know that's
I
a
don't know
weird
if it was
amount,
Troy Baker.
but
It actually sounded like what's that? He's in loads of things. I can't remember. He's in Doom Patrol and he's in Firefly. What's his name? He's Wash in Firefly. What's his name?
I forgot
What's his name. Jesus Christ. I can't remember his name.
Okay, so Simon Krieger was Troy Baker.
Was it?
Yes.
Wow.
The only
Troy's
reason I
everywhere.
thought that as well at the time is because I don't think they did motion capture, but there were times where like some of his face looked a bit like Troy, and I was like, "Is that? Maybe it is," but I wasn't.
It's a pretty good. Was Troy Baker a voice in the Spider-Man game for anyone? I don't think he would.
Don't know.
They're everywhere. Him and Nolan North. They're just all over everything.
They're
They?
in.
Because they were both in Avengers as well, weren't they? So
yeah, they were also both in Dirt 5. Weirdly, just to mention that, I find that quite odd, but sure.
I like the end credits as well. I like the we're maybe jumping too far, but we've covered quite a bit of it now. But I like the fact that Kurt Connors was there.
Yeah,
quite nice.
Yeah,
so obviously he's probably going to be involved. Well, definitely.
Yeah.
I mean, it's already shaping up with potentially if you've got Green Goblin, you've got Venom, you've got Lizard.
Yeah,
and that's three pretty. And Craven, if as he was teased, you've got 4 pretty big villains, haven't you? And there'll always be one that comes back, whether it's something like Black Cat or someone will come back as well.
And I think they've got room to do like some of the smaller villains here and there as well. I'd love them to do something weird, like I'd love them to introduce Madam Web. I feel like she's a character that I haven't seen in Spider-Man kind of media recently.
Yeah,
and I always loved her.
No, you go. Sorry.
So I was going to say I always loved her. Like in the cartoons, I always remember the storyline where she's introduced and Peter sort of goes through the motions of like figuring out what the fuck that is. And so
Madam Web's cool.
Yeah. So I'd love them to do something weird like that. Maybe just at the end, like if they do like a Venom and Green Goblin storyline kind of thing, maybe at the end the setup for like if there is a next game is they go like, here's Madam Web. Because I feel like that's just down a rabbit hole of just weirdness that would be really cool in a video game. Like some of the set pieces they could do would be mad.
It would be amazing. There's so many. I mean, they did do I like the fact they did Tombstone and stuff in Spider-Man as well. Like some more random characters. I mean, there's so much material, isn't there? But one thing that I did make me think I wanted to talk to you about is about other Marvel characters. Because I read an article recently about what they would like to happen. They touched upon like there needs to be a Daredevil game that's very similar to the Arkham games, where you're going around Hell's Kitchen. And I thought there's just so many, just even basing it, if Insomniac Games had to have other Marvel you're getting too excited.
Yeah.
If Insomniac Games was to get other Marvel properties, then there's just so much potential. I mean, I would love an X-Men game in the same vein, but even if you were just Wolverine, for instance, or a Daredevil game would be amazing. There's just so many games, because I think that's where Avengers struggles. And I know I just said X-Men, which is a bigger roster, but I'm talking X-Men, but with you just one character or potentially two characters, or it's, you know, Wolverine and it's labeled as Wolverine, X-Men, or whatever. But or even a Fantastic Four game would be good, because it's 4 characters. I mean, I don't know. That's still pretty big. Like Avengers just struggles because there's too many characters too quickly. You're just bouncing between them, basically.
Yeah.
But a game where you just had it centered on Iron Man or Captain America, I think that's what they should have started with before they did Avengers.
Yeah.
That made no sense what I just said. I just really want them to be more games like Spider-Man involving, you know, in an ideal world would have a Gambit game being made, but I don't think it's going to happen.
No.
But it should happen.
Yeah, I definitely think the same. There's a lot of times where I was swinging through both on the original Spider-Man on Miles, where like if I landed on top of a church that has like a certain gothic feel to it, I'm like, Daredevil's got to be here somewhere.
Yeah,
like
because it would be easy, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
Well, it wouldn't be easy because you have to read through the whole game, but obviously you replace the swinging feature for more rooftop, which is basically Spider-Man anyway, rooftops, and obviously more ground level stuff.
But and I think the other thing as well is like they wouldn't have to build the city again. Like the city is there.
Exactly.
They've put in enough references so that those buildings can exist. Like the like Murdoch and Thingy definitely exists because you can find it in Spider-Man. There's like Black Panther.
You replace Harlem with Hell's Kitchen, like that's the focus point, isn't it?
Yeah.
So like that pocket of the city is there, and you just that's where you start out. That's your base, and you're doing different missions around New York as well. I just think there's I think the Spider-Man in the Sonic games could be the Tony Stark of the MCU. He could just pop up in a Daredevil game or any kind of, just bring all the games out. I don't care if they play exactly the same. I just want to play them, Nick.
Yeah, I think it's cool. And I think that kind of duality of like playing multiple characters, I think you're definitely going to get that in Spider-Man 2. Like, I think there'll be moments where you switch as between Peter and Miles. I think it'll be a case of like, you know, if you're fighting a massive villain, let's say you're fighting Venom, it's like you have to attack a certain way with Peter, but then you switch to Miles to attack a different side. And I think they'll swap it out like that.
People will want to play, if they have Venom in this game, the third game, if they ever do it, you will either Venom's going to turn into an anti-hero because people will want to play Venom. I think it's
it would be that, or it would be like DLC or something like. I think there's just so much you can do with it, and because you're not having to necessarily build a whole new map for every game, like Arkham. They did have to literally build new maps. It was like, we've got Arkham Asylum, Arkham City, and then here's Gotham. So they had to build new things. But for Miles and Spidey, they're ultimately the same, like, city. Like, nothing's really changed with them, other than Fisk Tower is slightly different.
Yeah. It was cool to go back in there, though, wasn't it? That was pretty cool. Yeah. That was the first part of Spider-Man, and then to go back in the middle of this one. I'm just thinking about Gotham now and thinking, in Gotham, in Arkham Knight, can you go back to Arkham City, or is it blocked off?
I think it's blocked off.
I need to get a new memory. I just can't remember anything these days. Probably playing too many games.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it's blocked off. Okay, I think you can see it.
Maybe? Yeah, because I remember playing Arkham City and being really excited, like the sad sack I am, to climb up near where Joker's corner is, and you could see Arkham Asylum. I was like, I was there. Like that's where we fought last time, Joker.
Yeah.
And then I remember thinking in Arkham, it was an Arkham Knight. I remember thinking like, oh yeah, there's Arkham Asylum again, and over there's Arkham City. So I should just deal with what's in front of me, but I wanted to live in the past. Cool. So to round up the Miles Morales thing, then, what's your rating? What kind of rating system should we have, Nick? Is there a consistently okay rating? Should we use a 5-star system, or an out of 10, or a percentage? Coconuts. I don't know. Out of the consistently coconut charts, it's
maybe we do it out of OKs. Like, out of how many OKs would you give it?
Okay, but how many OKs are we thinking?
I don't know.
5 OKs, 10 OKs.
32.
Let's say 10, 32 OKs. Out of 10 OKs, Nick, how many OKs would you give it? And bearing in mind, five is consistently okay.
I'd give it a solid 9.
Oh, really?
Solid 9 of okay,
Wow.
yeah.
That's 9 OKs. I will give it a. This is going to be my favorite bit of the podcast now. We won't be able to give a consistently okay rating to everything, but I'll do my best. Yeah, I'd probably give it 8 OKs.
Cool.
And the only reason it doesn't get 9 OKs is because I wanted another villain. I know you've said Kingpin is involved, but I wanted just one more Spider-Man villain involved, and that would have given it.
That could
9
also
OKs.
change when you do the side missions. You could suddenly say on a future podcast, you're like, actually, that extra 1 OK is sure.
I promise I will come back to my ratings.
Yeah.
We'll update. Eventually, there'll be a Wikipedia about this podcast, and it will have everything.
Yeah, it was really good. There's a side mission actually that I don't know if you did, but it's all based around like Miles' relationship with Aaron and Aaron's relationship with his dad.
Yes, it's the one where you're listening.
Yeah, that's awesome.
That is awesome. Yeah, it's a good side mission.
Again, there's like so much heart to that, and just going around the city and sort of learning about their history and sort of the start of the Prowler and how they got.
It's a smart side mission. I think that's what Spider-Man got right, and this has got right. So the side missions are all quite varied. Like there's obviously a lot of swinging back and forth and going to this spot and going to this spot. But I find when you're in a certain area, if you just do the things one by one, and like also like the boxes that you open from the Roxxon boxes, sometimes you get attacked, sometimes you don't get attacked. Like I thought it was very, very varied and very smart how they did it. So
I think there's actually more variation in this than there was in the original Spider-Man game. Because I remember in the original Spider-Man, there were a few things where I was like, this is a little bit repetitive. In terms, like I loved it because it's still swinging around, it's still doing the same Spider-Man things, but in terms of what you're actually doing, it was like I'm doing the same thing just in a different location. Whereas Miles, all the side missions feel very much like I haven't done this before. I haven't done this before. I haven't done this, and it makes it just a bit more kind of interesting, I think. So that's just something they learned from. But yeah, good.
Who knows what Spider-Man 2 will have for us, Nick? I'm very excited.
I'm so excited.
So that is everything to do with Spider-Man Miles Morales game that we've played through and enjoyed. And Nick has given it 9 OKs. I've given it 8 OKs, but potentially will be approved to 9 OKs after I've completed the side missions.
Stay tuned.
The next podcast we're going to do is going to talk about the first 2 episodes of WandaVision. I believe it's 2 episodes. I believe.
I'm pretty sure they dropped 2 episodes.
Yeah, 2 episodes. So that will be our next one, which will come out next week. And we're going to dive into both episodes and our original thoughts on it. We'll probably give it a consistently okay rating, as is now tradition.
Yep.
And I'm looking forward to it. I'm really, really excited to see what an MCU TV show looks like. And I've heard very good things early doors about the show. But as Nick is such a huge MCU fan, I can only assume he's going to give it a consistently okay 5 rating. So
I'm openly cynical about it, you know.
I hope it blows your mind. I hope you're just like, Jesus Christ. But we'll see.
I hope so too. You know,
I hope so too. Can't go wrong with they've got their classic costumes in Halloween. It looks like they've got their classic costumes in a Halloween dress up thing, and that's awesome. Yeah, that's worth 9 OKs.
Again, visually cool. Just depends how they do the story. But this next podcast is not sparking joy already. All right, dude. Well, thanks everyone for listening. Remember, if you're a fan of the Consistently OK podcast, you can find us on Twitter at ConsistentlyPod, and you can subscribe and share with your friends and tell them to listen to us to talk about all things geeky and awesome. And if they want to send us a PlayStation 5, just
please do, yes. But first, send it to me, not Nick. All right. Cheers, Nick. Take care.
See you in a bit, dude. Cheers. Bye.
Bye.